The fact that you've made it to this session means that you've now decided to make a commitment to try to enter a life of prayer. We have created the space in which to pray, and hopefully that space is created and is there for you. You found the time in which to practice and made sure that time is going to be protected and useful. So what do we do now? In this session, I want to go through some very, very practical, basic things about how we begin our practice. In future sessions, I'll talk about the various practices we can adopt and the different approaches and different understandings. But I'm going to start today with one of the most very basic ones and some very basic practical suggestions. So I'm going to ask you, if you want to begin to try this, to do one of the most basic practices, which is to listen to one's breath. The next few sessions that come after this, I will talk about different practices. There's some that you might find useful, some you might not. But you might want to return to this practice because although it is the simplest, it's also a very powerful one. And many people who are using other forms of prayer, other ways of entering into the prayer life, will center themselves, will actually enter it through just listening to their prayer. And we'll talk about what it means to be centered later on as we move on to other practices. So let us get started. As I say, you found your place and your time. You've turned off the phone and other devices. All the other distractions are gone and turned off or not going to be there. Some very practical things. Make sure you go to the toilet so you don't need to go during the allotted time. If you're hungry and thirsty is going to be a problem, then have something to eat or drink. But please not too much because you'll feel bloated and you'll get in the way of your practice. But if you do it also, just eat enough or drink enough to keep you going to the end of your practice, how many minutes it's going to be. If you can, control the temperature. Make sure it's a level at which you are comfortable. Not too hot, because you'll probably fall asleep. Not too cold, because that's probably all you think about. If you can't control the temperature where you are, say if you're outside or a place that doesn't have that control, then make sure you're dressed appropriately. If you're in a cooler place, make sure you dress warmly. If you're in a warmer place, get out of the sun and dress coolly. Make sure you dress comfortably. Tight-fitting or restricted clothes get in the way. Jeans are not a good thing to be wearing, other restrictive clothes. But gym clothes, of course, and lycra and things like that are very good because they allow you to sit comfortably. So dress comfortably. Get into a comfortable position. Now, traditionally, that has been what we call the lotus or the half lotus, which I'm sure you know. The half lotus is one foot is up on the thigh. The full lotus is when both are on this. Now, this is a difficult position to get into. Most people are not flexible enough to do that. And also can be a dangerous position if you really are not flexible enough and you don't know what you're doing. So although it is the most recommended, it is one you use very carefully. After this video, along with this video, I'll post some links to places where I'll help you develop some yoga positions and yoga work that allows you to protect both your knee and open up your hips so you can eventually get to that. So don't worry about it if you can't. Even if you're going to sit cross-legged on the floor, you might want to use a pillow, a prayer cushion, which means your hips are a bit raised up and makes it a bit more comfortable. Keep your back straight. That is very important so you can breathe easily. But get in a position in which you feel comfortable. Now, as you start, and you might be only doing 5 or 10 minutes, that's easy. And as you press on, you'll find that whatever position you're in, you'll find more and more comfortable. Another prayer position you can use is sort of the Japanese sitting position, where you push your legs back and you sit between your legs. Some people can do that very easily. Some can't. Again, when you start, you might want to put a cushion or a rolled blanket beneath your bottom, and then slowly move your way down. So if you're sitting or in the Japanese position, just work on that and get yourself comfortable. But at first, it might be slightly uncomfortable, but slowly work through it, and you begin to find the comfortable position that works for you. Now, some people don't like sitting on the floor, don't like sitting like that because for various reasons. Either they don't feel comfortable down there, they can't find it hard to get up, or they just don't feel it's part of their tradition. So you can sit on a chair. Now, do not sit in a comfortable chair. I mean a soft, sort of easy chair. You probably want something like a kitchen chair or a school chair, something with a hard back. something that will keep your back straight. Keeping your back straight and yourselves erect is really an important part of prayer, because it opens your body so you can breathe properly. And breathing is what we're doing. And it also means you will stay comfortable. Again, you'll be building up in time. So maybe at first to 5 minutes or 10 minutes, it's quite painful, but work through it and eventually you will get there. I should have not used the word painful. That's the wrong word. One of the things to make a difference between is pain and discomfort. Pain we don't want. Discomfort we will work through and eventually hopefully overcome. But if you're sitting in a chair, so sit in a chair, hard chair, back straight, knees, thighs parallel, feet flat on the floor. Now some people want to kneel. Again, kneeling is a long tradition. And I just recommend, if you want to kneel, you get what's called a prayer stool. It allows you to sort of kneel and then put yourself down on that. Or because if you just kneel there, you'll soon tire and fall back and you'll be more concerned with the pain. Really, the key to your position is get comfortable. Because if you're not comfortable, you're going to spend more time thinking about the uncomfortability than actually doing the practice. So your hands. Hands should again be in a comfortable position. Flat on your thighs, folded on your lap, or with your thumb and your fingers touching near your knees. All of these allow you to be comfortable and also open yourself. Some people also have, when they have their hands on their thighs, those hands are either up or down. I suggest up because I think it's a more open position, a more inviting position. But as we go on, you just practice with it, get used to it, and whatever works for you is what's important. But always, as we'll come to it, be kind to yourself. This is not about hurting yourself, not about being in pain. It's actually about being comfortable so you can actually do what you want to do. Now you're comfortable. You're in whatever position you're feeling comfortable. Turn on your timer. And I really do recommend a timer, because without a timer, we're constantly looking at our watches. We're thinking, is it time, is time? Now, that's going to happen anyways. You're going to look at the timer in the beginning, and that's just part of natural. And that's part of this development as you work on, you'll be doing that. Now, you can use various things for a timer. If you have an egg timer, fine, or a cooking timer, that's fine. My problem I always found with that in the old days was the tick, 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 got on my nerves. Okay. If you have a tablet or a smartphone, there are plenty of apps, most of them free, that are out there, both on the Google and Apple, which you can download and will allow you to set a timer for you, a bell or whatever music or what you want to start with, and we'll be able to set it for different times. Some of them are very complex. Most of them, I say, are free, and then for a small amount of money, a couple pounds, a couple dollars, you can upgrade them and they will do a lot more. They will keep a track for you if that's important for you. They do all sorts of things, but they're very available. Just go to Apple, the Apple Store or Google Play, and put in meditation timer, and there's a whole selection there to it. That's what I would recommend in today's world. Now, so you're sitting, you turn on your timer. The first thing you might want to do is make a resolution. And that resolution is not something too complex. It should be 1 or 2 words perhaps, or a small phrase, something you want to accomplish. Say, I want to be at peace. I want an open heart. I want to radiate love. I want to be closer to the source. I want to be less tense. I want to be more attentive. And you repeat that 3 times. Now we begin to breathe. We've been breathing all along, but we begin to pay attention to our breath. Now, this is not a breathing exercise. We will talk about that in future sessions about actually how we use our breath. But for the time being, as we begin, just breathe naturally, but pay attention to the breath. In your mind's eye, watch the breath come in and go out. Come in, go out. Watch it come into your lungs. Watch it depart. Listen to the sound. Just pay attention. It's not about getting breathing right or doing anything other than observing the breath. You are watching your breath with your mind's eye. Now, when thoughts begin to come in, and I don't say if, I say when, because they always will, how do we deal with them? The simplest thing is to, there's various ways that teachers have taught this. I'll say, you say hello to them. Others say you greet them like long lost friends and say, I'll be with you in a minute. You pay it, you know they're there, you say hello, and then you return to watching your breath. Now, in the beginning and later on, I'm afraid, again and again and again, this will happen. In a 20-minute session, it might be every 2 or 3 minutes, it might be every minute, it might be every 30 seconds. But you just do the same thing. You observe the thought, you say hello to it, and go back to your breath. Again and again and again. Don't try and force the thoughts out. Don't tell them off. Don't push them away, because then you'll just be caught up in the thoughts. But what we're trying to avoid is following those thoughts. So if it comes into your mind, oh, at the end of the session, I have to go shopping and I've got to remember to buy this and that, just put it to a side and go back to your breath. And one way of looking at this is just how lucky we are to return again and again and again to that centered place. Okay, so just say hello to them and get back to your breath. Do not follow those thoughts. They'll be there when you're finished. There'll be things you'll be able to do your shopping list afterwards. Right now, it's to center yourself in your breath. As the timer sounds, once again, you make your resolution 3 times. And this is really important, and too many people miss this. You need to also create time to slowly return to where you are. Take a moment at the end to feel the peace or the anger or the angst or whatever came out of that session, to learn from what you were doing. Just take a time to feel where you are. Hopefully, most of the time, it will be a feeling of peace, a feeling of wholeness, a feeling of connection. But maybe it was a feeling of boredom. Maybe some anger came out. Maybe some frustration. Just note it. And if you're going to use a journal, and in the future we'll talk about the use of journals, maybe you just want to make a note of what happened. So it is important to also allow the time to come out of the session slowly. Don't get up right away and start talking to people, start doing things. Just give yourself, even if it's only 30 seconds a minute, just a time to reflect on what's happened. Whatever you do, do not judge yourself or the session. There's no right or wrong. It's what happened, happened. Maybe you want to take some lessons away, but do not judge. Learn. Say next time, I did get caught up in making the shopping list, and I should have gone back to my breath sooner and got back to that. Just take that little lesson. But don't get angry at yourself because you didn't do what you wanted to do. Don't get angry at yourself because you weren't at peace and actually what happened was anger. Maybe that anger is more important for you to deal with today and be aware of than being at peace. Because maybe if you're aware of that anger, then you will realize that you need to watch it and be careful on how you use that anger. Just be thankful for the time you've had. Just be safe, kind to yourself. Realize that that session was one small building block on the way, one small step. It wasn't the whole journey. You've got a lot more time. So don't judge yourself. Don't get angry. Don't hold yourself in some negative way. It will undo what you've just done. Be kind to yourself. Now, one of the questions I'm often asked is, how long should I pray for? Well, that again is up to you. I would recommend it to begin with no more than 5 or 10 minutes and slowly build up. I often use the example of if you wanted to run a marathon and you went out the first day and ran 10 miles, you wouldn't be running the next day. Well, the same is with prayer. If you start off and try and do 20 minutes or a half hour on your first session, you won't be doing it the next day. Start with 5 minutes. And if 5 minutes is too long, start with 3 minutes. Just start with something, and you'll find if you stick at it, as I said in one of my earlier sessions, just do it is what's the matter. It's a practice. It's something you do. It's not something you think about. It's something you get out and do. If it's only 3 minutes, soon it will be 5. And then you'll be able to hold up to 10, then 15. Now, one rule is if you're doing more than an hour, half a day, you must have someone who's experienced in prayer as your guide, because you could be putting yourself in great danger. But I think for most people, 15 to 20 minutes a day or 10 minutes twice a day is more than enough to get the results that you want. and you will begin to see real change in your life. And you will find yourself more and more living a life in prayer. The fact that you've made it to this session means that you've now decided to make a commitment to try to enter a life of prayer.